Welcome to Fact Crypt, the channel that takes you deep into the mysteries that defy explanation and the crimes that shake us to our core. Today, we explore a chilling case that has left a small Idaho community and the entire nation reeling, the Idaho College Murders of 2022. A case marked by the brutal slaying of 4 young students in their prime, this tragedy has raised more questions than answers. As we delve into the details of the crime, we'll explore the lives lost, the theories surrounding the case, and the dark shadows that still hang over the investigation. Prepare yourself for a journey into a mystery that remains as cold as the Idaho night. The setting, a peaceful college town shattered. Moscow, Idaho, a picturesque college town known for its rolling hills, vibrant community, and the University of Idaho's storied campus. The town, nestled in the heart of the Palouse region, had always been a safe haven for students and residents alike. But in November 2022, the town's sense of security was shattered by an unimaginable tragedy that left the community in shock. The victims were 4 University of Idaho students, Madison Mogan, Kaylee Goncalves, X names can be modified, and X. They were found brutally murdered in their off-campus residence, a house that had been a hub of student life. The news of the murders spread quickly, and the small town was soon overrun with reporters, investigators, and a public desperate for answers. The night of the murders began like any other, friends gathering, laughter echoing through the house, the normalcy of college life. But what happened in the early hours of that November morning would leave a lasting scar on the town and the lives of those who knew the victims. The discovery, a scene of horror. It was a cold morning when the nightmare was discovered. The bodies of the 4 students were found by a friend who had come to check on them after receiving no response to texts and calls. What awaited the first responders was a scene of horror, bloodstains marking the walls, signs of a struggle, and a sense of overwhelming violence. The victims had been stabbed multiple times, but the house showed no signs of forced entry. The nature of the attacks suggested a level of personal anger or psychosis that baffled investigators. The murders were carried out with a level of precision that suggested the killer had some knowledge of the victims or the layout of the house. Yet, there was no immediate suspect, no clear motive, and no evidence left behind that pointed to the perpetrator. The victims, promising lives cut short. Madison, Kaylee, X, and X were more than just victims of a heinous crime, they were young people with dreams, aspirations, and futures ahead of them. Madison was a senior majoring in business, known for her bright smile and infectious personality. Kaylee was an outgoing and ambitious student studying communications, looking forward to her post-graduation plans. X and X were similarly well-loved, with friends and family describing them as kind, driven, and full of life. Their deaths left a void not only in their families but in the wider community. The University of Idaho held vigils, and the town of Moscow mourned together, united in their grief and their search for answers. But as the days turned into weeks, the lack of progress in the investigation only deepened the community's sense of unease. The investigation, a race against time. From the moment the crime was discovered, the investigation was intense and far-reaching. Local law enforcement, with assistance from the FBI, worked tirelessly to piece together what had happened. The small town of Moscow had never seen a crime of this magnitude, and the pressure to solve the case was immense. The investigation quickly focused on the timeline leading up to the murders. Surveillance footage, phone records, and witness statements were all scrutinized. Friends, acquaintances, and anyone with a connection to the victims were interviewed, but no clear suspects emerged. The absence of a murder weapon or any definitive forensic evidence further complicated the case. As the investigation dragged on, theories began to circulate. Was it a crime of passion? A random act of violence? Or could it be something more sinister, involving someone the victims knew and trusted? The lack of answers led to a proliferation of rumors, and the public's frustration grew as the case seemed to stall. Theories and speculation, what could have happened? The Idaho College murders became a fertile ground for theories and speculation, both in the media and online. True crime enthusiasts and amateur sleuths took to the internet, dissecting every piece of information that was released, and developing their own theories about what might have happened. One theory suggested that the murders were the work of a serial killer, possibly connected to other unsolved crimes in the region. Another theory posited that the killer was someone close to the victims, someone who had a motive that wasn't immediately obvious to investigators. Some even speculated about a possible connection to the occult or a ritualistic element, given the brutality of the attacks and the lack of a clear motive. As with many unsolved cases, the absence of concrete evidence led to wild speculation, and the internet buzzed with potential leads, each more sensational than the last. However, despite the countless theories, none provided the breakthrough that investigators needed. The impact on the community, living in fear. The murders had a profound impact on the University of Idaho and the surrounding community. Students and residents who had once felt safe in their small town were now gripped by fear. Many students left campus, choosing to continue their studies remotely rather than face the uncertainty and anxiety of living in Moscow. The community, known for its tight-knit nature, was left reeling. The lack of answers only heightened the tension, and for many, life would never return to the way it was before the murders. The police presence in town increased, but so did the sense of unease. Everyone was a suspect, and trust became a rare commodity. The murders also sparked a conversation about safety on college campuses and the need for better security measures. Universities across the country watched the case closely, implementing new protocols to protect their students. But for those in Moscow, the damage had already been done, and the wounds of that November night would take a long time to heal. The search for justice, a case that haunts. As the investigation entered its second year, the case of the Idaho College murders remains unsolved. The families of the victims have continued to push for answers, refusing to let their loved ones be forgotten. They have held memorials, raised awareness, and kept the pressure on law enforcement to find the killer. Despite the lack of a resolution, the case remains active. Investigators continue to follow leads, and new developments occasionally bring hope, but the truth remains elusive. The Idaho College murders have become a haunting reminder of how fragile life can be and how justice is not always swift. The case has also had a lasting impact on the true crime community, becoming a subject of fascination and a symbol of the limits of law enforcement in the face of a truly perplexing mystery. It is a case that will likely continue to haunt those involved and the public for years to come. As we close this chapter on the Idaho College murders, we are left with more questions than answers. How could such a heinous crime occur in a small town where everyone knew each other? Who could have carried out such a brutal attack, and why? And most importantly, will justice ever be served for the victims and their families? At Fact Crypt, we are committed to shining a light on these dark mysteries, keeping the stories of the victims alive, and pushing for the truth. The Idaho College murders is a case that demands resolution, and we will continue to follow it as new developments arise. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of the most chilling unsolved crimes in recent history. If you found this story as compelling as we did, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Together, we can keep the memory of these young lives alive and hope that one day, the truth will be revealed.